Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dink Tank podcast. My name is JJ.
And I'm Graham.
And this is episode 13.
13.
And we've had a little bit of a break. Just life's been busy, so we apologize. We do have our giveaway winner of the Thrive Smoke. We have lots of new paddles to talk about. Not as much news in this episode, so let's kind of go through a lot of the gear that we've kind of been getting the last month.
Yeah.
And I've had some reviews. I just posted my Adidas Melbone. As we mentioned on the last pod, I did go to Austin, so I finally got that out, put my thoughts. Definitely some interesting things with those paddles, but yeah, definitely be talking about some new stuff this week.
So, I mean, big thing right now. So PPA is kind of in their break.
Yep.
And they're doing the first year where they've gone into just MLP has its season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now, I think it's pretty much the whole summer. I think the Atlanta Slam is somewhere in there for PPA, but I mean, yeah, so MLP, they've kind of, all the teams were traveling around the world, actually, not just the country. And they went to Vietnam, they went to China. I know the Flames, Sock, Tyson, and all those guys were running around Vietnam. It seemed like they went everywhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, the Flames, again, they've been winning, which...
They're not supposed to be winning.
Doesn't seem like that was really their intention building that team. They got big names, Jack Sock, Tyson McGuffin, Jeannie Bouchard.
Much larger social media following people versus, and not to discredit, obviously, their pickleball ability, but much larger personalities, some might say, versus, being top of their game right now. Tyson, obviously, getting a little bit older, has dealt with a lot of injuries the past couple of years. Yeah. Jack Sock, obviously, amazing tennis, transition to pickleball. So, yeah, it's been interesting to kind of watch that team unfold, as well as some of the other drama that's kind of been happening with MLP so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had Hayden and Anna Lee getting into it.
You just call me a
last week,
Mm-hmm.
and then the most recent tournament, we had Ben and Colin withdrawing after the first. I think they played mixed, right? And then
kind of played mixed.
half played mixed, and then stepped into, or not even stepped in. They started the day on men's, and they both withdrew immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of drama surrounding that. I know Zane went pretty hard on it.
Zane had some tweets. I'll put those up there, kind of going directly at Ben, which I know I was sharing with you when he was posting them. It's definitely interesting. I definitely want to cover this, and I want to hear your opinion, because kind of when I was seeing this is there was already some questionable antics last year about Ben just not really being interested at all in MLP. Yeah. And this year, now we're already really seeing that. And I mean, it's barely started, and it just doesn't seem like he wants to be out there. As I mentioned in the mixed, he was just standing on some of those points. He was barely moving, didn't look like he was really trying. And then obviously when he plays with his brother, they decided not to play. Now we know he's had an eye injury in the past. If he doesn't care about MLP as much, obviously he doesn't want to risk injury because PPA is what he really cares about. At least that's what it seems. I understand it from his perspective, but also if everyone else is playing, it's a bad look.
It is a bad look. Yeah, there was a lot of notable. I mean, Zane talked about it, and then I think Deckel kind of came in, and he kind of took Ben and Colin's side.
And then Deckel got some.
And then Travis Rettmeyer kind of told him to.
Yeah, because they're Team Yola, so he's backing up his fellow sponsored player.
Yeah. Rettmeyer pretty much told him, "You guys are friends. I get it.
Yeah,
but you need to stop." But I don't know. For some point, I get it, because we also, I think last podcast we talked about it when they went to PPA and they had those rollout mats,
mm-hmm.
all those funny videos with Jaume and stuff. It's like, I know pickleball is not huge, but we're getting to the point where like it's big enough that the pros should be playing in pretty good conditions.
Yeah.
Like that should not
barring weather. I know weather that kind of was the issue in this last, in a way, because obviously it's lighting, but
I think wind's
been an issue in some of these tournaments,
and that's just life. That's just how it is. You can't control the wind,
and unfortunately, pickleball is played with a wiffle ball that is extremely light, unlike tennis, I know there's some other sports where the ball is significantly heavier. So, but
yeah, but I mean, you can control lights. You can control what courts you're using. It is hard for me because I'm like, and I saw like the measurement. I don't know how they measure lights and stuff.
That's what I was going to get into next.
But they're saying, I saw someone say that for tennis, the minimum requirement for lights was like, the number was like 103. And the lights at the courts were 47.
Yeah, so it's significantly less.
And that's the minimum.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's half of what the minimum is for tennis. And like you said, the tennis is moving a lot faster, but also
been around a lot more money. Yeah.
Pickleball, you're right at the net too. So it's like, you're not really getting hit in the eye in tennis either. And if he's had an injury in the past.
Yeah, it's like I said, he's protecting himself, so understandable, but it's just like, one, we shouldn't have been put in this situation to begin with, or Ben shouldn't have been put in to have to make this decision. But then two, I know Connor Bordeaux had some posts recently as well talking about this, and it's been crazy kind of seeing Twitter and Facebook go on about how you can't cater your whole tour to one player, but then also it's like when you have a player that's, as big of a star that might draw in a lot of people to watch. I mean, certainly when we both started following the Pro Tour, Ben Johns and Anna Lee are the two we wanted to watch. It's pretty normal across most sports. You want to watch the stars, the big names you hear about all the time. So I don't know. It's unfortunate to see. I don't think it's a great look, but also I do understand it. If I was Ben, I wouldn't have played mixed then. And that's what made it really look bad. Yeah, because it didn't look like he cared. And then it's like, oh, you're pulling out, and so I don't know.
It's kind of like Fed withdrawing from mixed after he lost in the round of 32 of singles.
It's like, what else is going on there?
It's like, is that really?
If you had pulled out completely, it's like, all right, I might believe more of what's going on. But
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hard.
But yeah, MLP. It's like I said. It's the only other thing I want to touch upon before we get into some gear is, and this was 2 events ago, but yeah, those courts still at Florida.
Yeah.
The DoorDash court, or I know some people were saying it was the squeeze colors. It looks more like it was for DoorDash.
Oh, yeah.
Such a bad choice. I mean, it's funny because it looked good on social media in the sense of it got people talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's no way in person that was fun to play on.
No. Definitely not.
I don't know. But MLP obviously is evolving. I do think having its own season is definitely the best case for its success. I'm rooting for it. Obviously, we're big fans of the Flames, considering they're Arizona's team. But I don't know.
It's been a lot of fun to watch, though. Yeah, I like it.
I do like the team dynamic. I just don't know if we have enough players that are established as pickleball as a whole being large enough that it's sustainable. But I'm hoping I'm wrong, because for those that are fans of MLP, which I would consider myself, it is so much fun when you know all these pros and watching them in that team dynamic versus playing on their own. And you also get matchups we don't normally see.
Yeah.
It's not just the top players playing with each other, although some of these teams in MLP are pretty stacked.
Yeah.
But it's fun seeing different looks and different partnerships that you don't normally see. So I like it a lot for that aspect. So yeah, we'll be fun to monitor kind of the rest of the season and kind of see how those numbers shake out for ratings at the end of the season. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of sums up our little news. I know I mentioned we weren't going to have that much this week, but MLP has been a fun subject to talk about. And other news right before we get into gear, the Nerdy Tourney is coming up at the end of this month. Bread and Butter's hosting it. I think there's 28 pickleball personalities, a lot of reviewers, a couple other people that are just in the space in content creation. The partnerships, they had a live drawing between Aurora and Doug on their YouTube channel. And I got paired up with Kyle from Pickleball Effect podcast. So he's at Dink Smash Media. So I was very stoked because we've played it with him in Vegas.
Yeah.
That was the first time we'd actually met in person. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm very happy that he has mained the Shogun for a long time because we are having to use bread and butter paddles in this tournament, understandably so. I will probably be using the Shogun, I'd imagine. I used that paddle for a little bit. You loved that paddle last year. I love that paddle.
Yeah, that was my, anytime I couldn't dial in my game, that one just felt right at home every time I went back to it. So I love that paddle. I'm excited. I think you guys will be a really good team, honestly.
I think Chris and our Discord put together all of the combined dupers, and I think Kyle and I were the 4th highest as a team.
Okay.
And him and I have basically the same duper, which is kind of funny that we got paired up in the together because they were doing like high dupers and low dupers, 2 separate bowls. And so we just kind of both ended up barely. So yeah, I'm extremely happy with it. I know he has really quick hands, so it'll be a fun little partnership. And I know he jokingly teased he'd play right side. Not that I am significantly a great, player, but like I am more comfortable on the left.
No, I think that would be great. You on the left and his hands on the right, and he'll counter everything. So
but yeah, so we'll have some more updates to that. I will probably do a vlog again. And just, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of content coming from everybody on that. So,
I mean, there's already people there. They're talking mad game right now.
Oh, I know.
They're ready.
I know Pickleball Blast put out a little promo already against everybody. I might have a little something in the works, especially now that I know my partner. But I'm going to have some fun with it. I reached out to my buddy Ethan, so we're going to see what we can do.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see the videos that come out of that.
I just want the belt. That's what I want.
You come for the belt.
Oh, yeah. You have to.
You have to, yeah.
Oh, also... I don't know. The
losers' medals are pretty cool.
That's true. Hey, the participation trophies. But Doug gave us a little slight also during the drawing saying he doesn't watch our podcasts. Dang. Or that no one watches our podcasts. But Aurora, shout out Aurora. She watches. So
there you go.
But yeah, I'm coming for Doug for that comment. So
there you go.
See you guys in Florida. But yeah, very much looking forward to it. I need to start playing though, because I am going to be on the road for like the 7 days before that. Not playing pickleball. It's going to be a golf trip, then a work trip, and then this. So, yeah, I'm going to have to start drilling and dialing in that Shogun.
For sure.
All right, awesome. What gear do you want to jump into first?
Well, I'd say the biggest paddle that was talked about for months and months and months and months and months. There's about 5 of them out in the wild, but we got new ones. Yeah. And they're fully approved and fully ready to go. So I think you got it right over there.
Yep. I only have one. The other 2 are sitting over there. We're going to do a ton more content with it, so I just wanted to highlight the one. But the Ronbus Ripple officially approved, and I'm very happy they changed the design. And what I mean by that is they added V2 on it.
Yeah.
So it's differentiated. I believe from what I've heard also, even because there's one of the biggest issues with the original Ripple, obviously, is figuring out which ones were approved, which ones weren't. Because the last one that the reviewers got that were not ever sold, I mean, you were terrified of that paddle. That
was the single scariest time that I was ever drilling with you. I was like, I can't do this. Yeah, it hit way too hard. And it had the PB Core 0.43 on it. Still don't know fully what happened there. Regardless, all of that is solved. They have worked very closely with USAP. I think they put out a joint statement. I will put those up on the screen. But everything is solved. These will be releasing, I believe, on the 30th of this month. So be on the lookout for those. I'm sure they will sell out. And for anyone that had the original beta, like the original beta or alpha, I think as we deemed them, this plays very similar to that. It doesn't play like the last one that was the hottest. Still hits significantly hard, and don't have to worry about it being approved, because I know there was some concern even about those. If it's like these hit really hard, especially in certain they were
breaking, and they would break it, right? And that's something that they have addressed. Get a little bit to more once we start dissecting these paddles, but they've reinforced the core a little bit more. I think they've also have lengthened the strips. Dustin did a really quick video on Pickleball Med on this. He's already posted it. Not a full dissection of the new one, but he kind of went into some of the new tech that Dong has put into this paddle. So just happy that everyone that was waiting for this paddle for what it feels like a year can finally actually use this and not be questioned of it's like, oh, that paddle's illegal, or like, oh, that's a beta, it's not fully out. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to playing with this. These just came in. I know some people that were more on the East Coast have been using these the last 2 days. But yeah, they look great, and just we've kind of been lacking a power paddle. I think that's had a lot of hype outside of like the Pro 4.
Yeah.
And even then, I think people kind of knew what that was going to be. It was an improved 3S. This is something that technically we really haven't seen. Also, I think I was kind of getting into this, but I believe I'm correct when I say this, that to solve any confusion, I think all of the previous models have been removed from the USAP approval list, just so there's not any confusion, because they kept the same design when they kept changing the paddle, and you didn't know which one was actually approved versus this one. New design, and just Everything
Version
else is
2.
removed. Yeah.
Version 2.
I'm very, very happy that they did that just to kind of differentiate it.
For sure.
And we do have some specs on this, so I'll read those off real quick. So I'm holding the Ripple version 2 R1.14, which had a swing weight of 122 and a twist weight of 5.8, and I believe a static weight of 8.1 ounces. And then I know the R2 version had a much lower swing weight of, I think, 116 with a twist weight of like 6.6. And then the R3 version is around the same swing weight. I think it was like 116, 117 as well, but was in the mid 5.6-ish twist weight. So 3 variants. That's also exciting. We didn't have that R3 model with the original 2 Ripples. So they're going to be launching with 3, and I'll definitely have some more content out that. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, just really, really excited. I know like Rafa over at Pickleball Tech Dude was maining the Ripple for a long time, and I know he's stoked to have a legal one again.
For sure.
It's going to be very interesting to see John's post next month over at Speak Pickleball of how many reviewers are going to switch to this as their main. Obviously, we're going to have the bread and butter tournament before then, but I'm going to be intrigued. I want to take an over-under on our next podcast. How many people are going to be maining this?
Yeah, it should be a good amount.
So yeah, that's our update on the Ronbus Ripple. We'll have plenty more content, and I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about these because understandably so, they should be talked about. So next up, I just want to get this out of the way. This is my main right now, which is the Thrive Smoke. And on our last podcast, we mentioned this was going to be our first giveaway, and we have a winner. I did a drawing, and the winner is Ethan Cook 2814 over on YouTube. He sent me a DM and he posted a question, and I wanted to answer that question actually. But before that, I just want to say congratulations, Ethan Cook. And I was very, very happy with kind of a very thoughtful question. So Ethan's question over on YouTube was, do you think that we as consumers are doing ourselves a disservice by following the push to elongated paddles, whether it to be like our favorite pro, or that's just what people that come from tennis do, when the majority of us would really thrive, ironic there, with a faster, more forgiving shape? And we have our opinion on this because both of us typically do favor elongated paddles. Now, there's reasons for that. It's not so much because of what the pros use. But what's your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question. I think we're probably, like you said, the wrong reviewers to ask because
there's some bias.
We would tend to gravitate towards the elongated. But I think it's all preference. Honestly, I think if we, especially with the amount of reviewers there is now, I think there's a lot of different opinions. I mean, if you go back to John's post of all the mains, it's like there's a lot of elongated, there's a lot of wide bodies, there's a lot of hybrids. I think it is hard with all the pros because they are all using elongated, 90% of them. But that's also because they don't miss the sweet spot. Yeah. So it's like, it makes sense for them. We use elongated because we like the reach. I like really heavy paddles. So the twist weight on my elongated paddles it's not low because
you let them
there's
up.
A ton of weight on them. But then we also like our sweet spot to be higher. So it's like, it's really personal preference to me. I think, especially I think if you have the chance to try a bunch of paddles, that would be the best option. So I definitely wouldn't push to elongated because of what pros are using, because 99% of us are not pros.
Yeah.
So I definitely wouldn't move to an elongated because of what the pros are using, because 99% of us are not pros. But I think if you have the chance, I mean, the best option is to try different shapes and see what you like, because a lot of it's going to be preference. I don't remember what it was. Someone did a survey of their followers of who was using an elongated, a hybrid, or a standard, and it was pretty even between the three. So as I said, I wouldn't move to that because of pros, but I would definitely try different shapes. I mean, that's just, we've said on elongated, but I mean, we still try a bunch of paddles, and there's some that surprise us, and there's I've been playing with the Vapor a lot, and I really like it, and that's a hybrid. So I think it's just personal preference of what you like. And coming from tennis, I picked up a tennis racket the other day and I was like, this is so heavy. I was like, my pickleball paddle is going to feel so light after this. So I think definitely most tennis players would gravitate towards that. And I'm not sure that's a disservice to them.
Yeah.
So
I definitely agree. And just to kind of continue on some of those points, for me, it's always been, as you touched upon, higher sweet spot. And there's a couple paddles like Gearbox's Hyper Shape has a higher sweet spot than most like standard wide body paddles. So that's one I actually thoroughly enjoy using is the Hyper from Gearbox. Some other ones the one that really surprised me was the Honolulu J3 Ti. I very much enjoyed that shape and I did not expect to. The Volair Mach 2 Forza, that was a paddle I used for a little bit. It wasn't my favorite, but I played pretty well with it. But almost everything else, for the most part, has not been my favorite when there's an elongated version of that paddle. I have used hybrids a good amount for me.
Yeah.
The Thrive Azul a while back, the Double Black Diamonds. I was using the Ruby for a while as well. Those are kind of 3 hybrids in a row I used. I've switched back. I used the Invader for a little bit. Definitely enjoyed that. And the main thing I think why I gravitate towards hybrids is there was a time where I definitely valued hand speed a little bit more. And then I kept training and I got faster hands, so I was able to go back to elongated. But whenever I do switch or I'm testing a hybrid paddle, obviously I get that even more speed. So it kind of depends on the type of game you're wanting to play. It also depends on the type of game you want to play, because the one thing that made me switch away from hybrids, it had nothing to do with the play. It had to do with the dinking.
Yeah.
And that dinking I just find so much easier with an elongated paddle. And I remember one day it just kind of clicked with us. And this is a ways back, but it's like, oh, just keep the paddle head down and you bring it up. And it's like, oh, this is so easy. And whenever I use a paddle that's not elongated, I really struggle because I can't feel it. And it also just, because of that reach, it's not the same movement.
Yeah.
So I think there's just some things that are kind of built in that elongated for me and yourself, as we've kind of have figured out, is just what our preference is. But someone that's getting into the game probably shouldn't start with an elongated unless they come from tennis and they need something as heavy as possible, because a wide body standard shape paddle does provide a lot of benefits with that bigger sweet spot, lower vibrations, a lot of things. And that's why I think there's been a lot of discussions by the reviewers of like juniors that are starting, where that, they've never played any other sports. They're not picking it up just because, and like they might be using that because they need a lighter paddle and they need the bigger sweet spot. And will they continue with that? I just played with Jack Monroe in Austin when at the Adidas event. This was days prior. He wasn't associated with Adidas. Obviously he's a ProXr guy, but he uses their wide body. And so I used a couple of his prototype paddles and I was like, wow, this thing's actually pretty good. Because I remember my first paddle, first real good paddle that was more than like a $30 paddle off Amazon was a Franklin. I can't remember the exact name, but it was actually a carbon fiber paddle when the Ben Johns paddle was not carbon fiber. It was another Signature Pro at the time. I apologize. I do not know the pro's name and I haven't seen him since. This was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago. But it had a super short handle, and using his ProXr wide body with a shorter handle, I was like, oh, this reminds me a lot of ping pong, which is my background for paddle sports. And there's a lot of good feel with that. But just then, I gained some things, but then I gave up some things. So it's that give and take, because no paddle is going to fit everything. It's just what paddle fits the most needs that you want in your game and that makes you happy. And I think one thing for also us, not that we love singles or that we train singles, but it is fun to play time to time and it's great cardio. So when we do play, you need an elongated paddle.
Yeah.
Shouldn't say need, but like it's so much easier in my opinion because you need that extra reach when playing singles, and just you get a little more leverage too. I love having a big serve and putting spin. So just having that, longer handle, although there's one paddle down here that we'll get to that is an interesting experiment combining both of those. But yeah, just a very good question. I appreciate that comment, Ethan. We'll get into a couple others at the end of this from some other people that didn't win the giveaway, but just wanted to kind of highlight that because it was an interesting question for both of us who use elongated, but definitely obviously test some of the other shapes.
Yeah. That's a great question.
With that out of the way, one more time, congratulations, Ethan. I'll get that. I'll message you on probably Instagram, and I'll ask for your shipping address, and we'll get that sent over to you. But what do you want to jump into next?
A paddle that we used, we've only used it a little bit. We just got it, but the Vatic Saga V7 long handle, 14 millimeter, just came out. We got the V7 long handle, short handle, Flash long handle, short handle, and then the Bloom. So that's their new wide body released after the 16s. So when we got the first Sagas, the 16 millimeter ones, I wasn't the biggest fan. I was expecting more.
I was not the biggest fan either.
Everybody was talking about how much power they had. It felt like a control paddle to me.
Everyone kept switching to it, was raving about it. And I think that was part of the downfall for both of us.
Yeah, I think we got them late compared to others, and everyone had been hyping them up. And when I just think it fell flat from what I was expecting.
It
probably
did
my
not,
fault, honestly.
It was built up, I think, online by a lot of the reviewers before we had a chance to hit it, saying what it was, and then I think we got it, and it was one of those paddles for us that did not live up to expectations at all. And I think had we not had those expectations, we would have said this is a good paddle. For sure. Obviously, the price is amazing on these. Yeah. But it didn't live up to the performance that we were expecting. This, on the other hand, as someone who's not a huge fan of the 16, I freaking love this paddle.
Yeah, this paddle is awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed this paddle. It was probably what I expected the other one to be, honestly. It feels more like a 16 than a 14 to me. It doesn't feel like, I'm not a big fan of 14 millimeter paddles in general. This one, it felt like a 16. It was plush, but it had the power that I needed. I love the long handle one. We only play with the short handle ones at the 16s, but I felt like I could get great leverage, great power while maintaining good control. I really, really like this paddle.
Yeah, this was a sneaky find for me. I assumed I was going to like this one more. One, because of the long handle, but two, just because I was like, oh, this will have more pop, this will have a little more power. And just the feedback off the paddle is just what I loved so much more. It just feels great. It feels more familiar to what I'm used to. It had enough power to where I'm like, I wouldn't call this, it's probably all court leaning power, if not, bottom tier power. Very subjective still nowadays with where, power lines up, but it's by no means like a hyper power paddle. No. But it has enough to where it's like, oh, I don't feel like I'm behind if I play against somebody who has a traditional power paddle. I feel like I have enough to put away. I feel like I have an aggressive serve. I feel like my drives are good. But just the biggest thing I think that is the difference is having that confidence with that power, but just the feel. The feel is so much better on this. Because I think one thing that you and I struggled a lot with, and when I say struggle, it wasn't our feel preference, was with Dinks with the 16 of, we were used to a lot of Gen 3 style paddles. You put the paddle out, it has a good amount of pop, it bounces off. You don't have to do a ton. Versus we felt the 16 in our play experience, it was like, oh, it's dead. Yeah. Like when you don't give it a lot, it didn't do a lot. And it was a little jarring at the time, especially because Gen 3 was a big rave and there's everything coming out seemed like it was Gen 3 and that wasn't. Versus this, just a little thinner, a little more pop, a little more power. It felt a little more comfortable to do that. But this is one I'm definitely excited to play a lot more with. I might drop a review on this. I might do a short. I don't know. But this is definitely one I'm going to be giving a lot more time, and it's going to be staying in my bag. So, also, I think these come in at $129 before code. So great price for a very solid paddle. I also I think they addressed tariffs. I think that's staying at that price for now.
For now, I think so, yeah.
So shout out to Vatic for making a great product and implementing on something that obviously a lot of people had enjoyed with the 16, but now kind of coming out across their line with more paddles. So, yeah.
Yeah. Next up, we got one that you hinted on just a second ago. Lots of shapes for this one.
Yeah, and I think we're missing one of them. I didn't grab one of them. Oh, no, we have all.
No, I got them.
Okay, it looked like there was only 3.
So these are Volair's new paddles, 16 millimeters. This is the regular Mach 2 shape.
Yeah.
from the past. And then I think, is this one new?
This is the Mach 1,
yeah,
I believe. And then these are the 2 new shapes, which are the experiments that I was referencing, specifically the one I'm holding.
Yeah.
And I haven't had the chance to hit 2 of these, but I hit the one where the shape is my traditional, and then I also grabbed the fun-looking one. So just some initial thoughts. Obviously, Volair just did a very, very surprisingly shock signing of Dylan Frazier.
That was out of nowhere. I mean, he used Yola all year, and then...
Yeah, after obviously splitting with Selkirk and just not re-signing, probably, I don't know. A lot of people obviously have been leaving Selkirk, but yeah, I was shocked. And Volair had made really good paddles. I mean, obviously they were huge at the beginning of last year. And then they kind of came out with their Control 2, which I reviewed, which was just kind of an iteration of the Mach 2 with Kevlar. Came a little too late. There was no added power when everyone was wanting power. It was still very much a control paddle. And now we have these. So it's kind of the first time we're hearing from Volair in a minute. And I'm not going to lie, I was surprised by this. I definitely need to spend more time with it. But just when we were drilling the other night with a bunch of paddles, like this has enough kick to it.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's more all court control still, but when I gave this a little umph, I was able to put balls away, which was something that I was just like, huh.
This one's pretty heavy too.
Yeah, this one's very heavy, which probably helps with that plow through. So
I liked it.
It has a great feel. The surface type is titanium or polyester threads as we better know it. Feels super gritty. I was getting good spin with it. But yeah, just overall really actually enjoyed this paddle. So I'm going to be very much looking forward to doing a deeper dive with these. And then, shout out, this is more of we're used to seeing this from Honolulu Pickleball, of just making whatever he wants and having fun with making paddles. But yeah, this reminds me of the original Super Court from Chorus.
Yeah.
That we know Isaac hates from Pickleball Studio. This looks better because of the color scheme, but just, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, because this is crazy how long of a handle this is.
Yeah, is it 7? It's got to be 7.
Like it's 7.
It's got to be close. The only paddle
7, 6.5.
Yeah, 7. I know Crush has like the racket. The racket. That's the only thing that
a 7-inch handle I think
could really compare. It's like the face is,
but it's the opposite. So it's the racket from Crush is more similar to this one.
Yeah, but it probably has a longer handle up to like here.
Longer handle, and I think it was a little bit wider than the face. But yeah. I shout out to Volair for trying something different. My only problem is I don't know if these are going to be popular.
Yeah, I don't know,
because this is a little bit much. Because as kind of the question we were talking about earlier with other shapes, like this is great for having a long handle, but like it's probably almost a little too much. Yeah, of like shorten the handle a little bit.
If you're going for like surface sweet spot, this might have like, I mean, this whole thing should be a sweet spot. So
yeah, but it's just the problem is this. It's almost like a trainer paddle.
Yeah, no, I know.
Versus more of that kind of Mach 2 shape. I don't know. I would have loved something in between these two. Is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
not to be picky, because it's like, oh, we made this and we have this, and you're not happy. But I just think something more than that, because like I said, enjoying the J3 Ti, even not hating the J4 from Honolulu Pickleball. Yeah. It's interesting. So these will be fun to mess around with. Obviously these are kind of their main 2 that, will probably be their top sellers.
I think they'll do well, honestly.
But for anybody that wants to experiment with some fun shapes, these are good options. But yeah, if, just a little bit more aggressive from their original line. I think they look really sharp. You and I are usually a pretty big fan of minimal, sharp-looking paddles with black and white.
Too, if you look at it. So
a little bit of reflective.
You like that?
Oh, black and purple is always up my alley.
Yep.
But yeah, I was super happy when I saw something randomly come through Volair. And like I said, I think these look good. And I do think they're an upgrade over their stuff from last year. It'll be interesting just to kind of hear everyone's opinions, because everyone loves power, everyone wants power, and I think these have a bit more. Now I'll confirm that when I get it on my radar gun. But it's just in a world of where everyone's wanting these hyper power paddles with so many options. I don't know. It'll be interesting. And then also it was intriguing because it didn't seem like Dylan was using this yet.
Yeah, I think he might be using a different one.
I think is he not using the original?
I thought it might be a new one.
Okay, maybe
but I'm not sure.
But yeah, they're like new. I think it's the V series.
Yeah, I like them. I mean, these are probably all court, but the other ones were control. Yeah. So Dylan might be using.
There might be another one coming power
prototype,
and that's all speculation. We don't know. So,
but I don't think he was using this, or
he wasn't, because that was the big thing. Is we got these, and he's like, "Oh, Dylan's not using these." Yeah. So it'll be just interesting to get more on that. I'm sure we'll be covering that more as those come closer.
Yeah.
So, what we got next?
We got a couple paddles from Selkirk. So I think you got one of them. One of them over here. This looks almost exactly like the Luxx.
The original Luxx.
The original Luxx. But if you look, it's got the 007 cutout.
Mm-hmm.
It's 19 millimeters instead of 20. It's got a little more, it's got foam in it now. So
which helps with the sweet spot and gives a little more power.
A little more power. Definitely still control.
Oh yeah,
it is still a pillow.
Not an all-court paddle.
If you use the Luxx, it still feels like the Luxx with a little better sweet spot.
And the most important thing they updated.
But it's got Infinigrid on it.
Which Selkirk still claims, and they have doubled down on this, that it lasts 3 times longer than carbon fiber. Don't know if that's true. Still more testing for all of us, but from a lot of the reviewers that have done more of a deep dive into this, and I, with my 007, kind of experienced this, at worst, it's at least on par with carbon fiber. Yeah. So I don't know if it lasts 3 times longer, but
you can get fun colors.
Yeah, they can keep, and if you like edgeless paddles,
it'll still look really good in big box stores with all the colors, and it will last. It will definitely last longer than the spray-on grit.
Yeah. Well, their original spray-on grit.
Their original spray-on grit.
Because Infinigrid is technically still spray-on.
Their original spray-on grit that they use. I mean, I still see a lot of people using Power Airs.
A lot of Power Airs. I see a lot of Luxxes.
There's a lot of Luxxes out here. Seems like the older community of pickleball players really like the Luxx.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the first around, I had some before, but the first like actual really expensive paddle I got was the Luxx.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked it up until 4-2, 4-3 games.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't put the ball away.
Mm-hmm.
You get fast hands and you get the Luxx coming at him. It just doesn't put the ball away.
And even the other day when we were drilling, like I was hitting some more balls at you and you're like, still Luxx.
I think above 4 or 5, it's probably pretty hard.
But unless you can generate your own power.
Unless you can generate your own power.
Because I will still say this, which is terrifying to make as a statement, and maybe I'll get flamed in the comments for this. The fastest ball I've ever seen still from a player that I've played against who was a 4.8, he used a Luxx.
Yeah.
The fastest ball I've ever seen. But it was a tennis player his entire life, very high level tennis player.
Well, I mean,
he could swing as hard as he wanted with this without worrying of it flying out. And that's why he liked this.
Yeah.
But for the general population that can't generate that much speed.
You watch Jack Sock with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
same
it was
thing.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. There's people that, can swing plenty hard. The other thing also, because a lot of the reviewers just visited Selkirk, and watching some of their content, I know the Barnes Brothers, founders of Selkirk, are all very big fans of the Luxx. A lot of them use the Luxx as their main. Obviously, they joke, the next paddle is always their main one, but a lot of them really love the Luxx, which would explain why they haven't really dove into the power paddle market. We know some other stuff is coming with their new SLK Aero paddle, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. Era paddle.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they were pointing out with this paddle is they wanted to keep in mind of the people that loved the Luxx originally are still going to love this.
Yeah.
Because it feels very much like a Luxx. It has, just some slight improvements, but most importantly, it has that Infinigrid. But then people that, maybe wanted a little bit more out of a paddle, that's why, that little extra power, a little better, sweet spot, just those small improvements. It's shifted the goalpost a little bit to hopefully capture a little bit more of the people that didn't want as much control. But as we mentioned, it's still very much a control paddle.
For sure.
But that was just kind of an interesting highlight. I wanted to, like, that they, were thinking through that they wanted to cater still the original audience, but try to grow it just a little bit by shifting it down, like going from 20 to 19 millimeters. But yeah, we hit with this. It definitely feels good. It's still Luxx. It's not going to be something I'm maining, but as someone who did main the Lab 003 for 4 or 5 months, it's so easy to play with.
Yeah.
Like it is so easy to play with. Like dinking, drops, drives, but of course you're not going to win on drives, but just like it makes the game so much more easy, which kind of goes into another question of, do power paddles, are they the best paddles for most people? And the answer is no. They're just the most fun to use. So it'll be just kind of interesting to kind of keep seeing how that plays out over, the next year, and how the game keeps changing with these power paddles versus control and kind of what everyone's using, as well as shapes, because pickleball is, changing as ever changing and adapting. And speaking of adapting, Selkirk has come out with their version of kind of a wide body, which is their new Maxima shape, because I believe their old Maxima shape wasn't an elongated paddle.
Okay.
So I think they're keeping a name of an old paddle, but they're just reusing it because I don't think they've released.
Yeah.
Although I think we maybe saw the 006 might have had a version with it when we were looking at the approval list.
Maybe, yeah.
Regardless, it's not something we've really seen from their retail line in a while. But yeah, had a chance to hit with this. Sweet spot's great.
Yeah.
This is obviously in their 008 paddle line that's been very interesting. The 13 and the 16 feel very, all court, and the 16 feeling very control, but just, not a ton of power unless you add some weight to it. And then that 10 millimeter paddle, which I've been using, and the Invicta, just a lot of pop.
Yeah.
And I'm going to finally be posting a labs review on the 008, just because I was waiting for that 10 millimeter and I wanted to play with it for a couple weeks, and I finally have, as well as their new shape. So
yeah,
I'll be doing that.
And this is their first wide body with a long handle.
Yeah.
So they have the Epic, but that has the
they're improved,
the newer wide body that everybody's liking.
Yeah. Because that's the way the game has been going. That's a good call out. I miss.
Yeah, because the Epic is a wide body, but it's a short handle wide
body,
which
most people don't want. Most people do not want. They want the at least 5.5, 0.3, with that wider shape. So I definitely think this will make a lot of those wide body folks happy. I would still prefer the 10 millimeter or at least the 13.
Yep.
But yeah, it's nice to see Selkirk, who has been slow to adapt in some ways. It seems like they're finally starting to really trend in the right direction. And we know they're doubling down on foam. So there's going to be a lot of new foam paddles coming out that are power paddles.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be very excited to, one, talk and play test about all these, but then really compare. Because everyone's now kind of rushing with this new technology and seeing what they can come out with. And obviously we've got the blue core from Diadem, you've got the Lab 008, and then you've got the True Foam, which have kind of been the 3 main ones that have been out, of which I will also be comparing soon. I'm sorry, I have been behind on content, but that's one that I just need to finish up editing, because I think it's an interesting review comparing those 3. Because I think the durability is there. I think we've heard from enough brands that believe in the technology that it'll help solve, that core crushing. Now they can still disbond, so there still are some potential issues. But yeah, it's nice to see, the innovation in pickleball still, it's not slowing down.
No.
So
I'm excited for that SLK paddle too.
Oh, I am so excited for that paddle.
Ignatowicz was looking good in MLP with it.
Yeah. What's also crazy too is hearing some information from those guys that got back. That paddle was supposed to be, I think, 179 or 169. Really? It was supposed to be, because it's their SLK line, so it's supposed to be $180. And with the tariffs, because that one's made in China.
Oh yeah.
I think they said it's going to be $200. So still, more affordable. Good, yeah. And that's the other thing also, the Luxx, the new one, is going to be $280 now versus $250. So that's not a change that we're thrilled to see, but they said the reasoning for that is the Infinigrit. Yeah. There are some components. The paddle is made in the US, but some of their sourcing is from abroad. The majority of it is from the US, but they said it's very labor intensive to imply the Infinigrit. So that's why they're seeing the price increase there versus the SLK line. It's tariffs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we'll be getting our hands on those soon. And that with the Ripple, I think, are going to be 2 of the hottest paddles probably in the next month and a half.
No, I agree.
But yeah, exciting stuff from Selkirk, and I think it's going to be a big year for them. So next up, don't have too much on this one, but we got sent over the 2 shapes. This is the Signature. This is the one we've been playing with. They also have a more wide body version. this isn't the prototype. This is just a revamped version of their original Signature series with a new core. I think you were telling me it's 10 millimeters wide cells now. Just some initial thoughts from this. I like the prototype a lot more, even like the original prototype, which is basically the Paddletech TKO CX, which has that fish weight in the side, and the wide cell core. The prototype original has 2 fish weights, and that wide cell. And then the new prototypes obviously are more of Gen 3 construction. And having played with Jackman Rose, like those things hit hard and feel great. The sweet spot on this, now I need to add weight because these paddles are, I think, decently light. It would play better, but it feels very similar to the original.
Yeah, it's definitely a Gen 2. And then this shape, it just doesn't allow for the best sweet spot. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it comes in a little light. But if you hit the sweet spot, I mean, it's got pretty good pop, pretty good power. Mm-hmm. Definitely not crazy power, but I liked it, honestly. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I love the design of the ProXr paddles.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed my time with I played a lot with the 16 millimeter Signature when the newer version came out, and I really enjoyed it. It's just one of those that because of the shape, the sweet spot is really narrow on the Signature. Now on the other one, this is one where that actually might be one where you'd want to use the other shape because the shape does benefit if you need a bigger sweet spot. And this is one for me where I actually do struggle with the sweet spot because it's more narrow. Now, again, I haven't added any weight to it. That would probably fix my problems. But I've been playing with this, I think, in my last 3 play sessions. And it doesn't feel like a major improvement. If you're looking for something, like I said, that is very powerful and new and I think exciting coming from ProXr, the prototype, I think, is still the way to go.
Yeah.
But if you were a fan of the original Signature series, maybe you didn't upgrade to the other one they revamped, this would probably be the one to get because I think it does have just, a little bit more pop and power.
And they dropped the price from, I think those ones were $220.
Yeah, they were in the twos. What's $150?
$150. So pretty substantial decrease in price. Mm-hmm. So speculation, I would imagine they're going to come in with the prototypes in that $250 range.
Yeah.
Maybe $280, who knows? But
for $150, it's a solid paddle.
It's a very solid paddle, I think.
I think the Signature needs some adjustment. The wide body version, not as much. As well as if you had the 16, just helps a little bit more. But definitely want to highlight these because I have always been kind of a pretty big fan of ProXr. I really loved the original ones. And so it's a fun paddle to play with. And having also been using the first edition prototype, which was ridiculously expensive in a super small launch. I love it.
Yeah.
But I would like to see something that's more mass market coming from ProXr. And so it'll be interesting to see, what they kind of do this year, especially where those things come in on price.
Yeah. They also have like 9 different colorways.
The purple and black.
Yeah.
That was the other thing I loved about the original one too. But I just wanted to highlight this real quick. Definitely a fun paddle. I'm enjoying my time. And some of the best design paddles versus, I know a lot of people flamed Zane's original Signature paddle, which was the original version of this. Definitely an improvement. And if you get his Signature paddle, I know the logo is a lot smaller now, but Next up,
talked about him earlier a little bit. Bread and Butter revamped the Filth line. Or I guess it wasn't a line before.
Yeah, they revamped their Filth paddle. So it originally was only in the elongated.
Yeah.
And they've come out with their hybrid shape and they've come out with their standard or wide body shape. And if you've seen this one, this is the fat boy shape. And this is what their invader shape is. And I believe it is their intent for most of their lines now that they are going to have all the shapes for each one. Not much has changed. This is basically still the original Filth.
Yep.
They just changed the design a little bit and added 2 shapes. I've been enjoying my time with the Filth. I think I still prefer the Shogun as an elongated paddle from this line. But there's a lot of fans of the Filth. I see a lot of those original Filths out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of the ones that kind of put them on the map with their marketing and everything like that. So it's fun to see them adapting.
I like the new design too.
I think it looks great.
It looks really clean.
I think it's loud, but it's not too much. And it definitely is.
Yeah.
It's all.
I'm glad they went with all white. Mm-hmm. And not just a bunch of different colors.
Yeah, but I think it's nice to add the versatility. I know that's been something a lot of reviewers have been pushing brands to do, and it's been an interesting topic for me when it comes to paddles of should you have all three? Because I think there's times where too many SKUs.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a paddle company like Bread and Butter, where you have very distinct lines, I think that makes a little bit more sense at times, especially when they've released all three shapes, but not all their different paddles, in different shapes. The Shogun with the titanium face, it's more kind of all court, and this definitely more all court kind of control. So it's interesting to kind of see, but I think the feedback will be pretty good for them on this. I know that the Fat Boy shape is great, but I know a lot of people, in my mind, I've always thought, now I know this is very much the Bread and Butter style. Not everyone might want a paddle that says Fat Boy on it. Yeah. Even though it's funny to some people and it's got a great design and it looks great. But to have that same shape, which I think that's another one I didn't mention earlier. I very much enjoyed playing with the Fat Boy. Yeah. This wide body shape, I am a huge fan of. Yeah. It feels great. It's, it's got a slightly curved top, but this is one that I did thoroughly enjoy and could use in main. It just didn't hit hard enough. That was the main reason why I didn't stick with the Fat Boy. That was actually a paddle that because I bought my first two Bread and Butter paddles to review. So yeah, it's nice to see again them adapting. It's gonna be curious to see if anyone's using this at the tournament at the end of the month. Yeah, I'm assuming if everyone's using a long end, they're probably gonna be using the Shogun. Yeah. I'm assuming it's gonna be a lot of Invaders and a lot of Shoguns. Yeah, but I have actually been considering the past week using this just because I haven't touched the Shogun in a while. Yeah. I just got a new one, so I got to break that puppy in. But I've been using this one because I'm wanting to talk about it. And the paddle feels great. Yeah. But if you love the original Filth and you need a new one, there you go. I think the design, personally, I like it a little bit more. And yeah, if you wanted to try out one of the other shapes with it, you've got more options now. Yeah. So,
last paddle of the day.
One of the most exciting paddles, too, I think that's coming out.
Yeah, I agree. Friday Pickleball, back at it again.
The kings of budget.
Yeah, the kings of budget.
And marketing.
And marketing. They've been working on this for a minute. Mm-hmm. I know we saw them again in Mesa, and they were all using prototypes of this back in the early stages of it.
Wearing all their denim.
Wearing their denim.
Their thrifted denim for a video.
Funny.
I know our buddy Cody played them in the 4-5 division.
They killed it too. Yeah. They look good. Mm-hmm. I know they, again, beat us. So
yeah, we'll get that rematch eventually.
One day we'll play for the bronze medal
from Vegas.
But yeah, the cheapest Gen 3 paddle, probably. It's got to be. It's got to be close. I think it's going to be $99. Gen 3 construction. We haven't gotten to hit it yet. We literally just got it.
It's called the Fever. Yep. It's also got the .43 stamp, so it's good to go.
Yeah.
And it's got kind of the same design that we saw as the Challenger paddle, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Where it's got this printed on. Yeah. Sharp looking paddle. Obviously, they've got great colors, and their whole stick is being affordable. Yeah. And I know Braden was kind of hyping this one up over at Pickleball Effects. And obviously, we're big fans of Friday Pickleball. We've had a lot of friends that we've recommended their stuff just because it's affordable. Their 2 for $99 is arguably the best deal in pickleball if you want a solid paddle. And now that they have a Gen 3 paddle that will hit significantly harder. I mean, when we put a bunch of tungsten on that Challenger paddle, that thing, one, had an amazing sweet spot, but it hit plenty hard.
I mean, I watched, so in Mesa, Scott and I don't know the other guy's name. He's like their pro who is with them. And they're both 5-0s. They won 5-0 in Mesa using, I don't think they were using this. I think they were using the actual Challenger paddles. Mm-hmm. That paddle is actually, it's a great paddle.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I mean, the people they beat in the finals, they beat Andre Mercado, who is, I mean, he's a 5'7" now.
And using a Flamingo.
Using a Flamingo. He's 15 years old, but he makes it to the pro draws.
Yeah.
We've played with him a few times. Mm-hmm. He is a monster.
Is he third in juniors, fourth?
He's 5th in the world in all of juniors now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when we met him, he was like a 4.8,
Yeah.
5.0 maybe.
So I'm at the park. So
I remember
last
he
night
hit
too.
5.0. We saw him a couple nights ago.
He had no business being there with the competition that night.
He's like a 5.7. So I mean, he's the real deal. So, and it was funny because I heard people, because we've gotten to know Andre a good amount, and all of his friends were like, "There's no way you lost to the Friday pickleball guys," and he was like, "No, I swear they're good."
Oh, they're all solid.
He goes, "It wasn't the other one."
Yeah, no, I mean they're all solid players though.
They're awesome. They're really, and they're great people too.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's just, I mean, they, outside of bread and butter when it comes to marketing and just kind of a brand as a whole, they are my favorite brand just to watch and see. Like anytime I see their ads pop up, like I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
and obviously Jake, like all three of those guys that run it, like very different backgrounds, and like just I see Jake's comedy stuff constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny. I'm like, these guys are involved in pickleball.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
And it's just, they make such good content. They get the YouTube game. It's just, they're great people, great company. And I mean, they're making great products at an affordable price. And that's something that, this YouTube pickleball reviewer space really thrives on talking about. And this should be talked about a lot. I'm going to be very excited. I will be giving this a dedicated review. I just want to get more play testing on it, and actually get some pretty in-depth thoughts. But yeah, this is one I'm very, very, very excited for. And based on a lot of the things I've heard and seen, this is one I probably will be recommending to a lot of people coming up. So
yeah, I agree.
So shout out to Friday. Like I said, especially in this market with tariffs and everything like that, just keeping prices affordable for the time being and continuing to innovate. So, cool. And then the last thing, I know we finally got some things that you have been wanting for a while.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try these out.
I haven't had the chance to wear mine because I have been on a golf kick again because
you got to get back in tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm a golfer, so it's just, that's my identity. Pickleball is my hobby, and I had a tournament the last weekend, so I was trying to find my golf game, so I had to put pickleball a little bit on the back burner, which is the main reason why content's been slower. But we got through that. The golf game feels better, so we're finding a balance. But I know you've had a chance.
But yeah, I've been using these for about a week now,
which are the
Jet Mach 3s from Babolat,
which are Ben Johns.
Yeah, Ben Johns uses them.
Signature shoe.
Holland wears them.
A lot of pros.
A lot of pros are wearing these.
I know that, like online especially too, these get a lot of high praise.
Yeah.
Like these are always usually in the top 3 recommended pickleball shoes.
I think these are what Isaac wears from Pickleball Studio. I love them. I've been really liking them. I'd say my main shoe is the Skechers. That's usually what I wear. I would say these are probably closest to those that I've been I feel really comfortable in these.
I was going to ask, just because I know these are the 3 shoes you've worn the most, between the Winner's Edge, the Skechers, and the Babolats.
Yeah.
Where would you rank those, or what are your thoughts just kind of between the 3?
Yeah. So I would rank these very close to the Skechers in just overall, they feel pretty similar. These are probably a little lighter. The Skechers would be in the middle. Like if we're going off weight, the Winner's Edge are really heavy.
Yeah, they are.
I actually really like the Winner's Edge a lot.
I do too.
They're very different though. They're just a different shoe than...
I think a big part of that is the sock that's internal.
Yeah.
Like those get really hot and they are heavy.
Hot, and there's a lot of support that I really enjoy that. These would be the lightest, I think. And then the Skechers have a really like hard sole. Like it not in a bad way, but it they're not heavy, but they're very stable. These are definitely less stable, but I feel really quick in them. And there's enough support. I had a lot of ripping
on top of the Skechers.
On top of the Skechers.
I know
which they have fixed.
Their newest edition of the Skechers.
Their newest edition, the white and black ones.
They've addressed it.
Colors. Yeah. They've addressed it, and they have probably this same.
It's not a mesh anymore.
It's the same material. Rubber. I really like them. They're really quick. Like I said, they're the fastest shoe. The Skechers are a little slower, but you have enough support in these. It's not like you're sacrificing your ankles to get the speed. So colors a lot.
That's the one thing.
They do have many colors in their they're the same shoe as their tennis shoes that were built for tennis. These are just the first ones that actually have a big pickleball on it. Like it says pickleball on it. And it's the right color for pickleball. So
shout out to, it's hidden. It's at the top. I was going to say shout out to Pickleball Etc. who despises when shoes actually say pickleball.
It also says it on the back.
That's minimal enough though.
Yeah.
But that was the funniest thing at the Adidas event, just calling that.
Michelin.
Yeah, rubber. That was the
Michelin
first thing.
Rubber instead of Goodyear.
That was the first thing I noticed when you handed me my pair.
Yeah, the Skechers are Goodyear. So
yeah,
whatever tires you buy, that's what you should buy.
Brand loyalty.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, those are exciting. The colors, yeah, definitely not my favorite, but I did try them on. They felt extremely comfortable. I've been wearing the Winner's Edge the most. I had worn my Nikes before that. But yeah, I haven't really tried the Skechers. That's the one. I know I had my friend Jack buy them. He's really enjoyed them. Yeah, the tearing on the previous model was kind of the biggest issue I'd always heard, but it does seem like that's been addressed.
Yeah. Especially,
so nice.
I like the new color too.
Yeah.
I like the loud colors because I have the bright pink ones and the Miller Lite ones.
Miller Lite.
So
from Tyson.
I have some really loud ones, but I do like the minimal black and white ones. They look so clean.
Awesome. I look forward to wearing those. I'm sure we'll talk about those in future episodes. The last thing before we wrap things up, we mentioned we'd answer some questions that we asked everyone when entering the giveaway. So I just wanted to answer a couple that were some thoughtful questions that I think we could provide some good insight to. So first one, this is just a quick one from Rick Ortiz. Asking about the Winner's Edge shoes. I just want to mention this because we just got asked, we were just talking about them. He asked if those are the only two colorways, which are that white and orange and the black and whites. I believe in men's, those are the only two colors. And then they have 4 colors for the women's.
Yeah.
Next question from Chase Farrell. Are you going to review the Yola Pro 4 Hyperion on the fence with this one or the Perseus? Like to review on the Perseus. It's interesting when it comes to a lot of the Yola shapes because, as we always joke, they pretty much all have elongated paddles and then they have the Scorpius.
Yeah.
The Agassi, the Hyperion, the Magnus, and the Perseus are all elongated shapes.
Yeah.
They're all just slightly different. I think the Agassi plays the most different versus the other 3. The Magnus and the Perseus are probably the most similar. It's just, do you want a longer handle or more face? The Hyperion, I think the biggest thing with that one is more of hand speed. And it's not a ton. Like I said, the paddles are very similar, but with that curved top, I do think you gain a little bit from that. But I think feel, in all honesty, they're very similar. I don't know if we like I said, you had a chance to hit all of those and some of the previous models as well. Any thoughts on the Perseus versus the Hyperion?
Yeah, I've spent the most time with the Perseus. That's what we went home with. And then in general, in the past, we've used the Perseus shape. I think the Hyperion's good. I mean, I know that shape. I mean, even go back to the original paddle. People are still using that one. Like people love the Hyperion shape. And like you said, a little bit faster hands. I know Isaac doesn't like the Perseus shape, which is a little...
He's been using both round tops, the Agassi and the Hyperion.
Which is a little strange because, I mean, his main is the Shogun. It's always the Shogun. It's always been the Shogun. So, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah. I think the best case when it comes to those with how similar those are is just try to demo them. If you know somebody that has them, try it out. But yeah, both of those are pretty similar. It's more just going to come down to very, very minute details. Question from Ben W63. Thoughts on the Pro 4 Scorpius 14 versus the 16 millimeter? It sounds like he really struggled to decide which 3S model he liked more, and he's unsure of being able to demo both of them simultaneously. We get that a lot in terms of it's being hard to try both out. The general thing I always say is the 16 millimeter is going to have a better sweet spot. In my experience with the Gen 3, the 3S, the Mod, and the Pro 4s, the 16 millimeter hits harder than the 14. The 16 millimeter is going to be more stable than the 14. And the 14 is going to feel obviously a little bit lighter than the 16. So for me, it always really comes down to, do you want a paddle that's more stable? If so, I'd go with the 16. If you have struggled with some of the power in the past. If you've been able to use a 16 in one of those 4 I just mentioned, then I'd go with the 14. The 14 has typically always been what I've done, just because the 16 just is too much for me. But you're someone who really enjoys the 16. And I think the one thing I will say, as someone who has always used the 14, I do think the 16 feels better, especially in the Pro 4.
It feels so good.
But just for me, like I said, the performance of the paddle, it's a little too much for me. I don't need quite that much. I also think that's why a lot of people have been going towards the Agassi, because for whatever reason, even though it's the same paddle, the Agassi just doesn't hit quite as hard. Yeah. And so I think that's why a lot of people have been gravitating towards that, plus the shape and obviously the Agassi name, just a lot of tennis players, I think, like that. But if we're talking about the wide body, I think those are the first 2 things we mentioned are the biggest factors with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I still really love, the feel of the 16 is so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's my favorite.
Here's another one from Liang 3861. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Do you think the new Adidas paddles will be approved by USAP and UPAA in the future? So I just dropped my review. This is still confusing. But the poly honeycomb paddles, both of those dual stamped, those are completely fine. There is no issues with those. There's no reason for those to fail. The EVA foam are the ones that were not approved by USAP at the time of launch. And from what I've heard, and also just speculation in general from hitting them, there's no chance those are going to pass. And what we have later learned also, the UPAA approval that they have is their interim approval. So there is a chance in a couple months that those might be delisted or removed from UPAA's approval list. So kind of an interesting spot to be. If you don't play tournaments, and I mentioned this in my review, those EVA foam core paddles, now that the Ripple's coming out though, that's the alternative. Like I'd say a safer bet is to go with those. But if you want the hardest hitting paddle in the market, that Metal Bone EVA is insane.
Rocket.
If you buy the one, it's only $209 too. If you buy the one that doesn't have the brackets or the weights adjustment system on them, you throw a little weight on 3 and 9 o'clock. The sweet spot's fine. It helps with stability. It's not the best, but it's definitely playable. I know you really enjoyed the paddle. Honestly, I really did as well. It's just a weird paddle to talk about because it's not approved.
Yeah.
And when you hit it, you're like, oh, this is one of those, like the original Ripple, especially that last one that they sent us. You're like, oh, there's something wrong here. Like, there's no way.
We were drilling and it had no weight. And I was like, it's good. It's hit hard. You put weight on that thing and it is a missile. Like, it hits like the Ripple.
Because the funny thing is too, that one that doesn't have the weight system, it's lighter. Like, it's the cheapest price and the swing weight wasn't terrible. So you can weight it up a little bit and then you get that bigger sweet spot and then you get better plow through. Oh, it's just, that thing's a rocket.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, if you want a fun paddle, I'd look for one. It is fun to mess around with, especially if you're just playing rec. But if you're looking for something that hits that hard, I'd probably wait for the Ripple V2 or get a Yola Pro 4. Yeah. I think those are your safer bets, especially since those are USAP approved. And then in the case of the Pro 4, also UPAA approved. This last question, this one comes from Timothy Ngo 933. Should you play with a power paddle until you can control it, or start with a control all court paddle and switch to a power paddle later on once you have better control skills? I'm going to let you start with this one.
That's tough. That's a tough question. I mean, I think it works out either way. Mm-hmm. I went the route of control to power. I mean, I went control. I played with the Luxx and then I switched to the Gen 3. So that was a bit, maybe too big of a jump, but I would say that way works, but it just depends on how you're going to play. If you're going to use the power paddles as accessories and not as I can do whatever I want because I can drive it no matter what, and the 3-5 players are going to hit the balls out that I hit it at, that's not a good way. You're going to just develop bad habits. But I mean, it is definitely, there's a line where if you start with a power paddle and you learn to control it, then you're already in a good position. You don't have to learn how to switch paddles.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how to answer that question. I think it probably depends on the person. Again,
I completely agree. I think because I'm an interesting person in the space too, because I definitely started with an all-court paddle. That was that original Franklin. And then I used the BnB Signature, which at the time, I don't know where you'd place that, probably all-court power, because there wasn't that many power paddles out at that point.
It was probably the best paddle in the market.
It was the best paddle in the market, but it definitely wasn't the most powerful. But then I did switch to the ProXr, and I added weight, and I learned to drop with that paddle.
Yeah.
But then ironically, I switched to the 003, which is the Luxx. But then from that, I switched to the Yola Gen 3. So I kind of went through all three. The way I like to joke about me using ProXr, I kind of viewed it as, I had a friend growing up who's now on the PGA Tour, and his dad always believed, he's like, oh, I'm going to give him blades from like when he was 6.
Yeah.
And the reason is, it's like, I'm going to teach him to learn to hit the sweet spot now, because then, you know, precision wise, it's like he'll learn that now, and it's like any club will be easy to hit. So in that sense, using a power paddle, especially like the ProXr, which doesn't have the biggest sweet spot, best forgiveness, that was good. Probably could have learned a little faster though had I used something else. So I think if someone were starting today, I think I would recommend probably get a all-court paddle, because I think that'll make the game fun enough to where you can hit drives, but it gives you enough forgiveness and touch on the soft game. Because the biggest problem I see with people that get, like, let's say the Ripple or Pro 4 is, you're not going to want to dink. You're not going to want to hit drops. You're going to want to just rip the ball because you can. And those are correct shots in a lot of times. But the problem is, if you're never in a spot of where it's like, oh, I should probably reset this, or I should probably hit a drop, I think that hinders your growth. I think there comes that point of when you reach past 3.0 and it's like, okay, I need to drop. I need to hit some of these more precision shots and learn the soft game. And then I think it picks back up the other way, where it's like, okay, I need more power again. You know, you need to be able to hit the ball hard, but you need to be adaptable, because in some high level games, if you have good hands and you're good at all that, the team might wear you down by dinking and trying to outlast you. So you need to have both. So my recommendation, not that this is correct, but I'd say probably start all court to just learn those fundamentals. And then from there, if you know you're still struggling a little bit, go control. And if you feel like you've kind of learned and you've done well, then go power. And, you know, then you can add all those fun things, kind of like you said, using that more as a tool. It's like, yeah, then you can add the power to that and learn some of those other fun shots. But I think that's a great question, and I think that's a good one to end this on. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week, and we'll probably have another giveaway in our next podcast. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.